Bergman notes that the names Jovan and Aryan are mentioned together in Persia, Bactria, and India. Here, the inseparability of these two names is underlined once again. Assyrian records mention the island of Cyprus as the land of Yamna, Yovans. Hindus mentions Yovan in Sanskrit as a common name with a broad meaning for all people of the far west. They are also called Arabia, where incense and pepper come from, the land of Yovan. Incense is referred to as desired by Yovan, and pepper as loved by Yovan. The prophet Ezekiel also mentions Yovan in Arabia when he says, Vedan and Yovan. There was a city called Vadan on the caravan route between Mecca and Medina. Panini, a Sanskrit grammarian, calls the letter of the Aryans in India the letter of Jovan, and that letter was not Greek, but an older form of Serbian. In India, Jovan's books on astronomy are mentioned in Varaha Mahira. There is a debate among scientists as whether these were Chaldean books or some other ones brought from Europe. Francois Lenormand introduced us to Coptic, that is, Egyptian name for the Greeks, Uinen and Uayani. He believes that the name of the Greeks come from the Semitic language of the Egyptians, Macedonians, and Serbs in general, are mentioned by the Egyptians as Haunebu, which in meaning corresponds to the Jewish island of the people from Izorod. The Egyptians called Alexandria, which was built on a site of the small settlements of Rakodi, as the residence of Haunebu. The Egyptians say that Emperor Ptolemy I Lagich set up his seat in Alexandria on the shores of Haunebu Sea. This means that the Greeks are Uinen and the Serbs are Haunebu. In Lenormand, if Lenormand is right that this word Uinen comes from Egyptian from the Semitic languages, then it must be concluded that in Middle East they made a difference between Jovan and Uinen, that is, between Serbs and Greeks. Uenen or Veani at the Copt is Vedan at Ezekiel. The presence of the name Yavna or Yavana in a cuneiform script from time of the First Empire excludes any thought of Jovan being associated with the Greeks. The origin of the name and meaning of God Jove, Jupiter, is most clearly determined by the learned Roman Marcus Terentius Varron, who says, God and Divum. Jupiter was earlier called Diovis, Dies Peter, which is Dies Pater, equals Day Father, and those who originate from him are called Dei and Deus. Deus equals God. And Divum, which means sky. Sub Divo, or under the sky. Varron also explains that because of that, the roof of the temple was drilled with holes so that the divum, that is the sky, could be seen. Some have said that it is not right to take a note in his name while you are on the floor of the same roof. Varron's translator Roland Kent says, Jupiter, Diovis, Dies, Deus, and Divum are etymologically connected. After these explanations of Varron, there is no longer the slightest doubt as to what the god Jovan means. It is a deity of heavenly revelation, light and day, real public life under the bright sky. It is Jovan, Job, Jovis, Jupiter, and Javan. It can be taken for granted that the Eastern people pronounce the name Jovan as Javan precisely after the word Java, that is, heavenly Java. Life under heaven, gods and people. In an Encyclopedia of Mythology, Larus, the Greek god Zeus is explained that as Zeus is from Sanskrit root Diaus, in Latin dies, which means day. First, Zeus was the god of sky, winds, clouds, rain and thunder. Zeus, like Jupiter, originated from Div Jovan, the Serbian celestial deity of Java. The Greeks often called Zeus Dios or Dion, which means Div. It is just slightly distorted Serbian name Div. A large number of folk names came from the name of supreme god when the people in question celebrated. We will constantly encounter such cases in the future. The name was changed in the East from Jovan to Javan, while the original form passed from Serbs to Greeks and Romans. The first Romans came from Asia Minor from the Serbian tribe Dardan, and they transferred to Italy the god Jovis, Job, Jovan, which are all old names of Jupiter. Jupiter is Jovus Pater. We believe that the name of the Jewish god Yahweh originated from the name Diva Yava, Yavan. Vadel says, I is the same god as Bel among the Aryans, and among the Jews it is Yah, or Yehovah, which is Jove, Roman. Orbini and Dolci agree that the oldest Illyrian god was Jakobog, whose temple and prophecy were located in Dodona. Jakobog or Javobog is one and the same since beginning of the Jewish Yehovah. In the most cases, the Jews took various names and titles from the Assyrians. We find in Prophet Joel the name Jovan for as Yevani. In a speech of the people from Syria, Jovan is called Yavno and in Arabic Yunana. In Media, whose Aryan population is Serbian, Jovan spoke Yavna. In the prophet Ezekiel, Jovan of southern Arabia is mentioned as Vedan and Javan of Uzal. One area in southern Arabia was inhabited by Serbian tribes, and today there is a province called Asir. This fact is known from several different stories, and Ezekiel confirms it. However, this testimony of his has special significance because of another name, Vedan. This name in Hebrew as well as in other Semitic languages as well as in Coptic Egyptian literally means Greek or Hellen. Ezekiel distinguishes Greeks from Jovan even when they are together in southern Arabia. In the excerpts from the 6th book of Diodorus, which was butchered by censorship, there is a mention of a writer of a holy history who was a hailer of the Emperor Cassandra around 300 BC. The name of the writer has been replaced with the name Evhemer, which means daily, transient. There is no doubt that the writer had a Serbian name, so they replaced him. We will call him the Hailer because he was. The Hailer was one of the most important writers of the Divonia. His work is mentioned, but it cannot be found anywhere, as well as his real name. Emperor Cassander sent Hailer to the Southern Ocean south of Arabia, and he arrived on the island of Panhai. On one hill on that island there was a temple of Diva Trifilski, built when Diva was the master of the world. In the temple, the works of Varuna, Teuta and Div were written on a golden stele. Varuna, he says, was the first ruler to know the movements of the stars and was called Varuna or heaven. There is literally the Serbian word sky. He had 2 sons with his wife Hestia, Titan and Teuta, and 2 daughters, Rhea and Demeter. Demeter is the mother goddess. Then it is said that Teut was king after Varuna and that he married Demeter and Themis. Their children are Kureti, Persephone and Athens. Greek Athens is a copy of Serbian goddess Pallada or Pallas. Diodorus continues that Div went to Vardun, Babylon, and was received there by Belo. After that he came to this island and built an altar to Varuna, the founder of the family. From there he passed through Syria and came to Kisi, the ruler of Syria, who left his name to Mount Kision. Jebel el Akra, south of the mouth of Orontes River. Then he says, the giant conquered many countries and peoples. Another mountain named after Kisei was located above the lake Serbon. In this damaged book, the Divonia is mixed with history. It is interesting that this is about Serbian Divonia and Serbian history.